This might be China's craziest megaproject ever. 1993, deep in the Taklamakan desert. They call it the Sea of Death. During the day, the sand gets so hot it melts the soles of your boots. At night, freezing. For hundreds of kilometers, there's nothing. No trees, no water, just dunes that can shift dozens of meters overnight. Even the old Silk Road caravans avoided this place. And now, right through these dunes, trucks and bulldozers are dragging construction equipment, a straight line across the map, through the Sea of Death, a road that should never exist, because it can't exist here. Why even try? To get to millions of tons of oil, one of China's biggest treasures. Building a road here is like challenging the ocean to part for you, except instead of water, you've got sand dunes as tall as apartment buildings. There's no solid ground, no water, temperatures over 120 degrees Fahrenheit during the day, below freezing at night, and every single kilometer of this highway will cost $14 million. In 2 years, this will become the world's longest desert highway, the Tarim Road. But they'll have to fight the desert every single day, otherwise it takes everything back. Deep in the Taklamakan lies something China was willing to risk anything for, a massive oil and gas field buried under layers of sand that move like a slow-motion ocean. Experts estimate a third of China's entire oil and gas reserves are right here, under the Taklamakan sands. They started poking around the edges in the 80s. Helicopters flew workers to drilling sites, trucks brought equipment, but the deeper they went, the clearer it became. We're not getting very far like this. By the 80s, Chinese geologists knew the deposits in the center of the desert were there, and they were huge. But without a proper road, you could only get there by helicopter, and helicopters don't exactly haul drilling rigs and pipeline sections. Southern Xinjiang was basically cut off from the rest of the country. To reach the northern cities or major factories, you had to drive around the perimeter, along the mountains. A massive detour. Thousands of extra kilometers. For trucks carrying equipment and fuel tankers, it wasn't just longer, it was exponentially more expensive. Beijing realized, either we build a road straight through, or we keep feeding the desert our time and fuel. But straight through meant going over dunes, over sand that never stays put. No major road in the world had ever crossed this much moving sand. In 1989, they made the decision. On paper, a straight line appeared, over 500 kilometers long. It would connect both sides of the Sea of Death. The project cost as much as building the Burj Khalifa plus several smaller skyscrapers. But for the oil workers, it was a chance to reach the treasure. For the southern cities, a connection to the rest of the country. And for China as a whole, proof that even in the most remote and brutal place, you could build world-class infrastructure. 1990. At the edge of the Taklamakan, engines roar to life. 32 people head into the heart of the Sea of Death to find the only route where a road could actually work. They move in a convoy, sometimes on hard ground, sometimes right over the crests of dunes. They stop dozens of times every day, drive a pole to measure wind, take sand samples, check the depth to groundwater, and every time, they're reminded, this place doesn't like being disturbed. Storms hit out of nowhere. One minute you can see the horizon, the next, the world shrinks to a few meters around you. Sand hammers your face, gets in your ears, crunches between your teeth. They have to park the vehicles broadside to the wind and hide behind them until the storm passes. One participant later said, "In those moments, you just stand there and wait for the desert to calm down, because moving is impossible anyway." Over several months, they checked nearly 4,000 points, digging sand, taking samples, setting up wind poles, working under sun that heats metal like a frying pan. After months of searching, they find a route. It's not perfect. There are no perfect places in the Taklamakan, but there's no other choice. 1993. Construction starts from both sides, north from Luntai, south from Minfeng. Between them, hundreds of kilometers of shifting sand. There's no solid ground here, just massive dunes that change shape every day. So the strategy is simple: move fast. Don't give the sand a chance. Strip the top layer, compact it, level it, and immediately lay the road foundation. Equipment and materials come along the desert edge, then over temporary dirt roads they build on the fly. They live in container homes. Water and food come in batches. Communication is by radio only. Nobody would tackle this just for a road, but the goal was too important. Build a highway where nature does everything possible to prevent one. The first stretch of asphalt goes down in the desert. Almost immediately, it becomes clear that the main threat isn't heat or cold, it's sand. The dunes here move, not fast, maybe a meter or two per month, but give them time and they'll bury everything, even fresh asphalt. A couple weeks after laying the first section, construction workers came back to inspect and saw part of the road had disappeared. They had to call in bulldozers to dig it out. out, like shoveling a car out of snow, except this drift is 30 feet tall. In the Taklamakan, dunes live by their own rules. Wind moves them, and it doesn't ask what's in the way. If a dune's headed your way, you either move or bury what's in its path. Slowly but surely, the desert devours everything humans try to leave here. Engineers quickly realized, without protection, this road won't last a year. They needed something that could stop the sand before it arrived. They started simple, put up sand barriers, long fence-like structures made of mesh that slow the wind and force sand to settle before it reaches the road. Then they added straw grids, squares of bundled straw laid across the sand in a checkerboard pattern. They hold the top layer and break up the wind force. They made the road surface heavier than usual. Under the asphalt, a compacted layer with gravel so sand wouldn't blow out from underneath. In total, they laid 165,000 tons of asphalt. That's like 375 Boeing planes worth. All these methods helped, but sooner or later, the desert always went back on the offensive. At some point, it became clear. You can't fight dunes with just dead structures. You need a living barrier, something that'll stand its ground for years and strengthen itself. To keep the road from disappearing under dunes, engineers proposed something that seemed almost science fiction at the time. Plant trees and shrubs along the highway. Not just a couple kilometers, hundreds. The idea was that roots would hold the sand and canopies would break the wind before it could drag a dune onto the road. Problem is, the center of the Taklamakan gets no rain for years. The soil is salty sand, and summer temperatures can literally incinerate a young tree in days. They found the solution underground. Beneath the desert lies a huge layer of groundwater. It's brackish, but usable for some plants. They drilled over 100 wells, each pumping water from depths over 100 meters. That's roughly the height of a 35-story building. They laid plastic pipes and literally drip-fed water to each planting. 22,000 kilometers of pipes here. You could stretch them halfway around the equator. Every 3 to 4 kilometers, there's a pump station, a small building, a few tanks, a diesel generator, and a couple workers on shift. Their job? Make sure irrigation never stops. If the pump fails, the plants die within days. They didn't plant randomly. They chose desert fighters, saxaul, willow, tamarisk, and a couple dozen other species that can grow on mineralized water. They're low and gnarled, but that's their strength. Less wind resistance, less moisture evaporation. First, they did a test section, about 6 kilometers, then 30, and over several years, they stretched a green belt along almost the entire road, about 70 meters wide. It's not a grove or forest. These are tough, low-lying plants that live for decades and fear neither heat nor wind. In total, they've planted about 20 million trees and shrubs. That's roughly 20,000 forest patches the size of a football field. Today, this green shield stretches for hundreds of kilometers. It breaks the wind, forces sand to settle before it reaches the asphalt, and around it, animals have appeared. Rabbits, birds, even foxes. Along with the road, a new ecosystem emerged in the heart of the desert. Every 4 kilometers along the highway, there's a small station, a couple buildings, a pump, water tanks. People live here, watching over the green belt and making sure the road doesn't get buried. They work in shifts, several weeks or months in the desert, then they rotate out. The road around them is empty for hundreds of kilometers. For many, it's almost like working at a lighthouse, except instead of ocean, there's sand all around. They check that pumps are working, pipes aren't clogged, plants haven't dried out. After a sandstorm, they sometimes have to dig out young shrubs that got completely buried. Life is simple. Water and food are shipped in, communication is by satellite, but many bring their families so they won't be lonely. Some grow potted flowers at the station. Some make mini gardens in boxes. These people are part of the road, just like the asphalt and greenbelt. Without them, the desert would have taken everything back long ago. When the Tarim Highway first opened, the irrigation pumps ran on diesel generators. Seems reliable enough, but think about it. Over 100 stations, each burning diesel that has to be trucked in on the very road these stations are protecting. Month after month, year after year. Add in constantly breaking motors, filters, and exhaust fumes. Basically, expensive, dirty, and troublesome. At some point, it became clear. If we want this green belt to survive for decades, we need to find a way to power the pumps without an endless convoy of fuel trucks. The answer was right there. Desert. Lots of sun, lots and lots of sun. Now along the highway, you can see entire rows of solar panels. They installed them right at the stations, connected them to batteries, and the pumps started running on energy the desert itself provides. There's enough power to completely eliminate diesel. Saves about 1,000 tons of fuel per year. For China, this isn't just a number. It's fewer emissions, lower costs, and less dependence on delivering fuel to the middle of nowhere. There's an unexpected benefit too. too. The panels don't just generate electricity, they create shade where sand doesn't heat up as much and moisture lasts longer. That means plants nearby grow faster, and you can even plant additional greenery under the panels. Along the road now, there are over 80 solar stations, combined capacity of about 3.5 megawatts. During peak hours, they generate more energy than needed for irrigation, and the surplus can be used for lighting or equipment at the stations. Essentially, in the center of one of the world's harshest deserts, something emerged that's not just a highway, but an entire energy network running on clean power. The irony? They're extracting oil here, but the road to that oil is protected by the sun. Today, the Tarim Highway connects northern and southern Xinjiang directly. No 1,000-kilometer detour along the mountains. For oil workers, it's a fast route to the fields. For locals, it's the chance to reach the next city in a day instead of several. Fruit, cotton, construction materials, all of it moves faster and cheaper now. There's even tourism. Not much, but those who come are after a rare experience. A day's drive on a road surrounded by nothing but sand and a green belt. Many describe it as driving through another planet. But the highway still requires constant care. The desert keeps creeping. Sometimes sections have to be dug out. Workers check pumps, monitor plantings, refresh sand barriers. Without this, the road would quickly fall back under the dunes. But thanks to them, it remains one of China's most unusual and vital highways. Look at it from above on a map, and the Tarim Highway is a thin, dark line stretching across a yellow sea of sand. But behind that line are thousands of people, millions of work hours, and solutions nobody had tried before. This road proved that even in the most impossible place, you can build a functioning highway if you find the right approach. There's no magic here, just persistence, ingenuity, and the ability to make the desert work for you. And maybe, when other regions start turning into deserts because of climate change, the experience of the Tarim Highway will become more than just an interesting story. It'll be a real textbook. For now, this road continues its endless battle with the sands. And every day that trucks drive on it and the green belt grows, humanity wins against the elements.